Dear distinguished guests, it is my true pleasure to welcome Debbie Haski-Leventhal as our keynote speaker. Debbie is at Macquarie Business School in Australia and an expert on corporate social responsibility, purpose, and responsible management education. Together with Prime, she conducts international studies on business students around the world and their attitudes towards responsible management. Professor, over to you.
Thank you so much, Louisa. What a pleasure to be here, and what an amazing first hour we had of this areas session. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I'd also like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodian of the land where I sit, the Darug Nation, and pay my respect for any elders past, emerging, and present, and also pay my respect to any First Nation people present here today. Today, I'd like to talk to you about something very close to my heart, the purpose of universities, and to see how we can maybe lead universities with higher purpose, and why we should listen to the students who are telling us to do more and to do better. And to do that, I will share a few pivotal moments in my life, including the Prime survey, and how that shaped my worldview around higher education and its purpose in the world. So a few years ago, we just saw Lisa from Cologne Business School, and they invited me to come and talk about responsible management education. And as I was preparing the presentation, I just Googled universities are, and what came as the top search results really astonished me. So that's what came up. Universities are business, dying, failing, scams, corporations, joke, useless, and of course, hostile to geniuses. And that shows a broken system, one that needs to be fixed quickly, urgently, but also in a profound way, because it seems like we kind of missed the mark of what is the purpose of universities. We focus too much on impact factors rather than social impact, and on how much our graduates make instead of the difference that they can make. And so I've started cultivating the whole idea of how universities should change. That also tapped to my personal journey in higher education. And I can say that today, higher education saved me. I came up from a very religious, extreme religious family. And when I started university, I had zero support. I was also going through a deep meaning search. And higher education, especially a degree in philosophy, allowed me to ask important questions to get me to think about my purpose in life. It was not easy. I had no financial support, and I had to work really, really hard to get through the first degree, often going hungry because I did not have the means to support myself. But what I did next completely changed my life and actually led me to where I am today. Because I've started working in this tutoring project, working with this kid who was an 80-year-old sweet boy who loved art, was a little bit nerdy, and he got bullied a lot. And so I worked with him for a year, and I helped him cultivate his self-esteem and create a few friends. And I really felt like I made a difference in his life. And that was such an amazing feeling. So I went on to volunteer for another year, and then I became the volunteers coordinator and the vice manager of the entire project. At the age of 24, I was in charge of 1,000 volunteers. I absolutely loved it. So I went on to do a master's degree in management of not-for-profits, and then a PhD on volunteering, which led me to where I am today, a professor of corporate social responsibility, purpose, volunteering, and responsible management education. It was this extracurricular activity, this opportunity that my university gave me to make a difference in someone else's lives, that really helped shape my life, nothing less. And so this got me to think about the role of universities and also the role of business in society. So as a professor of corporate social responsibility, I see many companies that use their business as a force for good. Companies that care so much about the environment, they actually tell you not to buy their products. Companies like Ben & Jerry's who say, we're a company with a social mission, we just happen to make ice cream. Business leaders like Paul Polman completely shifted the direction of Unilever with his sustainable living plan. So I've started asking myself, what if universities can also become a force for good? What if universities could leverage their resources, their people, their amazing intellect, even their physical campuses to make such a difference? And I've really started contemplating about this idea, and I've delivered a TED Talk in 2019 about the purpose-driven university, which later became a book that I've published on this idea. And so as I was writing the book, I started looking into what some universities are doing in these areas. Some universities that got to think, what is our purpose in the world? And as you said before, why should anyone care? And what I've seen is an amazing movement of higher education institutions that are truly and genuinely trying to make the world a better place. And instead of being obsessed with being the best in the world and their ranking and their research impact, they're starting to think about how can we be best for the world. Universities like the University of Pennsylvania fighting to address poverty in Western Philly. University like Bentley University in the US, where students use Skype to teach English to students in Afghanistan. University like Stanford that has their Social Innovation Center, their Center for Research on Poverty, and where students actually go through impact investing exercises to learn how to do well and to do good at the same time. Here in Sydney, we have the University of Technology, Sydney, which created their social impact framework. So all around the idea of them being a university as a public organization there to serve society and the world. And when they do that, they show their students, their staff, their stakeholders that they can become a force for good, that they care, that with compassion, meeting their knowledge and expertise, they can really make a difference in the world. And so there was a fourth pivotal moment that really got me to think about the purpose-driven university, and that's what I'd like to share with you today. It's the movement of the students. And I've known that for a while, that students are really pushing us towards purpose-driven universities. Young millennials and Generation Z, they want to work for a purpose-driven employer, and they want to study in purpose-driven universities and business schools. And they start the movement, the revolution, bottom up. They have organizations like Enactus and Net Impact, the Prime Students Group, and many other groups where they try to create a change, bottom up, changing us, who we are as institutions of higher education. So in 2011, I approached the former Prime, head of Prime, and I told him that I want to conduct an international study with him about business students around the world and what they think about responsible management education and corporate social responsibility. And we've started and we've ran it every 2 years. So we've ran it 4 times now. And hopefully this year we're going to do it again. So watch this space. And we've started asking students different questions. And I want to show you how the students are really walking around with the mindset that's required for responsible management and for responsible management education. So one of the first questions that I've asked them was to rank the responsibilities of a business. So some of you may recognize this pyramid that was presented by Archie Carroll in 1991, showing the 4 different responsibilities of a business. And I asked the students to rank these together with social responsibility and environmental sustainable responsibility. And 4 times, 4 times we got the same pyramid, and that's what the students say. Not financial first, followed by legal and ethical, but ethical first, because doing the right thing would actually embed doing the legal thing. And only then you should look into creating financial value, because if you're putting financial value ahead of ethics and legal requirements, that's when you get Enron, and you need to be very, very careful about that. And it's amazing that across many countries, males, females, business students, again and again, show us that this is the right pyramid of business responsibility. They also have really strong expectations from us as their business schools. And it's interesting that the statements they most agreed with was that every business student should learn about CSR, should learn about sustainability. If we're still offering CSR and sustainability as some sideshow elective that they may or may not take, we are not meeting their expectations from us. So they are really wanting us to teach them more about responsibility, SDGs, and how they can go out back to the world and be better and more responsible leaders. And that's my favorite question that we ask them, the one that really got a lot of attention from the media. What we did is we asked students, how much would you be willing to forego of your future salary to work for an employer that cares about employees, the community, other stakeholders, environment, or all four? And then I put some different levels and I asked them to select, and I also put over 40%. But I really, in my wildest dream, did not think that anyone was going to select that. And I thought, I'm just going to have a nice bell curve of what the students are willing to forego of their future salary to work for a responsible employer. And I was really shocked to see these results. Firstly, 95% of students were willing to forego some level of their salary for one of these aspects at least. And most astonishingly, 1 in 5 was willing to sacrifice over 40% of their salary, over 40%, to work for a responsible employer, especially one that exhibits all 4 aspects. So showing us that holistic CSR is what they're looking for. If business and their employers can offer them this strong compassion and purpose while paying them well, that's how you win the war for talent. That's how you address the great resignation that the business world is currently facing. So with this, I've started looking into the idea of the purpose-driven university. And one of the first things that I've done was to define what impact purpose means. So what do I mean by purpose in purpose-driven university? A purpose is a reason for which something was created or for which something exists. So if you look around you, everything in the room around you was created for some function. And that could be a utility function, like this glass was created to hold the water. And it could just be a pleasure function, so just something nice to look at, picture on the wall. As long as this item serves their purpose, they are deemed useful. But if they stop serving this purpose, we see them as broken, and we might throw them away or recycle or find a different use for them, but they are deemed broken. What about people? How do we find our purpose, and how do we make sure that we don't walk around Earth being broken because we cannot function and we cannot address our purpose? And so I've started looking into that, and I came up with a few ideas of how we can create a sense of purpose. And one of these is impact purpose or unique impact purpose. Every university around the world educates students, providing them with some degrees and conducting research. But is this our purpose? No, this is just something that we all do. It's just like we all breathe in order to live, but that's not our purpose. When we use who we are and what we know to benefit others and benefit the world, that's when we start creating an impact purpose. And so to create an organizational purpose, we need to tie what we're good at and what we know and what we're known for with a positive impact. As higher education, we're known for knowledge and research, teaching and educating. We need to tie all of that to a positive impact that we can create in the world. So then I defined a purpose-driven university as one that utilizes its resources, knowledge, talent, and people to continuously work with its stakeholders to benefit the communities and the environment in which it operates through research, education, and service, using everything that we do in higher education to create a positive impact in the world and benefit the global and local communities. In my book, The Purpose-Driven University, I share a full framework on how it can be done, from building alliances and weaving connections with all our stakeholders, starting with the students, moving to all our business partners, other partners, and so on, working with them to create an impact, and then sharing a powerful story and narrative of change that we are cultivating in the world. When we do that, we become a purpose-driven university, which creates benefits to all the stakeholders. The students and staff get to be more engaged. They love what they do. They work with passion and empathy. The university becomes a destination of choice for purpose-driven people, people who are intrinsically motivated to achieve the goals of the university. And most importantly, it impacts society and creates a social impact around the world. I've started with the Google results. That is what you can find on Google, or at least you could a few years ago, around what universities are. I would like to end my presentation with, let's reimagine tomorrow. Maybe in 5-10 years, if we completely change higher education, we can find these kind of Google search results. Universities are purposeful, they're a force for good, they're best in the world, for the world. Thank you so much.